Hey guys, it's Hannah from hrimages. In today's video, I'll be talking to you about the 135 f1.8 GM lens, so stay tuned. The 135 GM has been one of the focal lengths that has been asked about from so many users. When was Sony going to bring out a 135? And finally, Sony answered everyone's wishes and brought out a 135 GM. At the time, they had the Zeiss Batters, which was f2.8, which I was not happy with. I didn't know why they did 2.8. Then Sigma brought out one. Sigma 1, comparing it to this, it is larger. And they've got like, all they've done is just put like basically welded on an adapter. It's larger, it's heavier than this. And I've heard bit of issues with the focusing, but I haven't tested it myself, but it's just what I've heard. I would love to do a comparison against the GM if I could get my hands on one, but I've only got the G Master, and since getting it for when it was released, I have actually fallen in love with this lens. I haven't even touched my 85 GM lens since getting this lens. Now, what I love about this lens is the focal length, the 135 at f1.8, giving a nice stunning bokeh lens. You've got the focus hold button, which I've customized it to the eye autofocus, but now due to the real-time IF, I haven't been using that a lot. I've been, since the A7R3 and the A7 III had brought the real-time IF. Now, I've recently just got the A7R4. I will have a review coming out soon, so do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Stay tuned for that review. This is what I normally pair it up. I've shot with weddings, portraits, everything. Landscapes, I've done a bit of street photography with it. For street photography, it is a bit heavier lens. With street photography, you tend to want to go for a lighter lens. But in comparing weight difference to Sigma, this is actually a bit lighter than the Sigma, and it is shorter as well. What I do like about this lens as well, you've got the function here where you can actually use it as portraits, and you can actually switch it to get actually very close-up detail shots, so you can do a bit of macro. It does not give you the 1.1 ratio for a true macro lens, but it does an awesome job in terms of getting nice close-up detail shots. So if you're shooting a wedding, you want to get up some nice detail close-up shot with stunning bokeh. This is a great lens. It saves you from sort of changing your lenses around. In terms of wedding, I like to pair up with the A7R3, now with the A7R4. This is normally my backup camera. I'd intend to use the 7 III with the 24 GM. I will switch the lens into crop mode, giving that chance to give a longer focal length. So times that by 1.4 gives you roughly about a 200 equivalent lens. So it's basically best of both worlds. You can sort of use it in crop mode in a larger megapixel camera as well, so you get 2 focal length. But this has been my most favorite lens for portraits. I'm using it a lot for everything. You will be seeing the sample images up on the screen as well as I'm talking. With this lens, I have not noticed any chromatic aberration. Haven't seen any lens flare. Chromatic aberration wise, it is well controlled. On the 85 GM, for example, I did notice a few bits of chromatic aberration in it. In terms of lens flare, I haven't sort of noticed much. I have tried to shoot up against the sun. It gives us sort of a bit of a, and it does give a bit of a soft sort of like sun rays coming through, but it's not something sort of heavy where it's like unwanted or it makes the image look ugly. It does give a pleasing look to the image. In terms of build quality, I do love the aperture ring as well. I know some people hate it. They claim that they do knock it around and it changes the aperture. Well, I haven't noticed that. You can actually switch it to declick and click. So then if you want a smooth turn, you can actually have that done, where it's great for videos. In terms of photos, I put a declick on, makes it a bit harder to move. If you have the declick off, it's a lot smoother. So then you tend to sort of knock it easier, but when you got the click on, it's a bit harder to sort of knock through. If you didn't want to use the aperture ring, as some people don't like, you have it here where it says A. You can actually switch it all the way to A. That way it comes out automatic, so you can actually control the aperture through your camera. opposed to the aperturing. So it just sort of depends on what you prefer and how you'd like to control your aperture and lenses. But me personally, I prefer the aperturing. In terms of the focusing, you can't hear like with the 85 GM, it is a bit noisy, like it's kind of it's very silent, whereas the 85 GM, you can sort of hear a bit of grinding noise, which it is perfectly normal for the 85, but you can't hear it if you're shooting a wedding and stuff. You can't really hear it, opposed to unless you're in a very quiet place or you're having a microphone next to the lens, you're doing a lot of like continuous focus. You can't really hear the grind on the 85 GM unless you're sort of doing those sort of things. If you're shooting normal environment, you don't hear it. It's very quiet. Whereas the 135, if you intend to do the autofocus in a very dead quiet area, church or whatever you're doing video, you don't hear the grind like the 85 GM. It's actually very snappy, the autofocus. Great for videos, great for stills as well. Having it on the camera as well, a lot of people sort of say, oh, the 135 is heavy, but comparing it to the Sigma is actually heavier than the 135 GM. It actually feels nice and well balanced against your camera. Again, it's great for weddings, portraits, events. I've used it for street photography, but again, a lot of street photographers prefer lighter lens. You tend to go for like the 24 GM or the 35 1.8 or even the 85 1.8, something smaller, lighter. So it's easy, so you don't have to worry about the weight requirements when you're going into airlines and stuff. Whereas the 135, it does weigh a bit in terms of if you're putting in your bag, so you intend to have to carry a bit less. But other than that, it is a great lens for portrait photography, for weddings, for events. Something I would strongly recommend in having in your kit, especially if you love that stunning bokeh. This lens, it prevails with its bokeh. It's just smooth and buttery. You would have seen some of my examples of the images that I've posted throughout this video. Well guys, that's my quick short review on the 135 1.8 GM. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, share and subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for future videos. See you guys.